Hi, it's Kama. Tonight's session is going to be a little bit different from the way we've been having our Teams meetings in the past over the course of the pandemic and at times when we're shut down because the cases have been rising here in the Florida Keys. Tonight was originally going to be a session to help those students working towards their professional ratings, whether they're dive professionals or AAUS scientific diver ratings, help them to really prioritize their goals, plan, and prepare to meet the requirements over the next, say, 6 months to a year so that they can complete whatever program they're working on. But something came up over the weekend, and it really leads me to think that we have to have a conversation more before we go into how to reach your goals, just how to achieve those baby steps along the way. And so I want to focus tonight on topics like time management, prioritizing, deadlines, meeting deadlines, and basically integrity in academics and your personal and professional development. So, one thing that happens when you work with the same teachers over a course of years is you almost begin to think of them as family, which is great. I love that. But just like you might with your parents or your older siblings or relatives, grandparents, aunts, uncles, you might drown out what they're saying when they say, it's really important to meet deadlines, be early. We say this over and over. If you're on time, you're late. Do your homework when it's assigned, not the night before. No, you don't stay up all night trying to get something done. Don't try to finish coursework or do your reading the day of a class. Things like that. We say it over and over and over. And eventually, everything I say, you're just drowning it out. And I understand that. I was young once too. And what really happens is eventually you get smacked in the face with reality. And consequences are real. You might lose your position, you might lose status or stature, you might develop a reputation as being that person who's always late or the person you can't count on because they cancel, or the person who doesn't show up or submit something and then you don't hear from them for a few days. You're wondering as the teacher or the boss or the principal investigator, what's going on? I can't count on that person, I can't trust them, I don't need them, okay? And so I want today to be about developing some strategies, some skills, and really developing an understanding of why it matters, why accountability, responsibility matters. And so what I've done is I've written to a few friends and colleagues and asked them to give some advice to all of you. Because again, I recognize you're so used to me talking. It's like, wah, 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 wah. There she goes again. And you're used to the bad cop, good cop thing. And in reality, I'd like to share the voices of others who care about you and care about your success and want to see you reach your full potential. So that's where we're going to go right now. I'm going to share some videos from our guests, and then we'll have a discussion about ways that you can prepare for your plans to meet your goals. Thank you.
Hey Kama, Sarah FANGMAN here, Superintendent, Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. You asked me about due dates and deadlines and the importance of those things. And absolutely, in my world, if we don't get things done on time, there are real consequences, and they're usually not good. And so I would definitely encourage your students to, even though maybe you can get away with it not turning something in on time, it's really not best if you get in that habit. And the other thing I would say is I always feel better when I do a good job. Even if there's nobody but me that's paying attention to that, it matters to me. My integrity matters to me. And it matters to me that people know that when I say I'm going to do something, they know I'm going to do it. So think about that when you make a choice not to do what you have been asked to do. That really reflects on you. And is that the kind of impression you want to leave people with? So good luck. Hope that helped. Thanks.
You will hold me accountable. And what I do to help me make sure that I get everything in on time is I always have my calendar I also do it on my cell phone, but I'm like old-fashioned girl and I like it all written down. I like to be able to look at any day and know exactly where I am and what am I supposed to do. And then I have my trusty highlighter that I yellow what's really, really important. And then I have this is my binder, getting ready for the next county commission meeting, which will be next week. And I go through it, and I usually have notes on the side. And I usually go through and I mark what's important. And then I start doing my homework and meet with staff and find out what issues I need to learn a little bit more about. But I guess what I'm trying to tell you all is no matter your age, it is always important that you're true to your word, that you do the best you can do, and that you try to stay organized. I understand how important it is to follow deadlines and to always be the best I can be. And I ask that you too now realize that you will, for the rest of your life, need to meet deadlines, because that is part of being true to who you are and the commitment you make to others. So get in the habit now of filling out your calendar, knowing when and where you're supposed to be, when papers are due, and get them turned in on time. So listen, I hope you all are doing well. Take care. Bye now.
Hi there, my name's Wendy ABSHIRE, and I've been asked to say a few words to you about deadlines and time management and the importance of doing what you need to do on time. So I'm a degreed meteorologist. I am 35 years into my career. I started working when I was 15 and was working at the National Center for Atmospheric Research as a student assistant by the time I was 19. Now I'm the director of the American Meteorological Society's education program. And through my career, I've had the opportunity to interview for many jobs and to be hired, and also to be on the other end and do a lot of the interviewing and hiring for others seeking a position. I also had the chance to talk to lots of people through talks, young people, students, college students, giving them career advice. So I'll share with you the same advice that I share with them. Employers hire people for one fundamental reason, because they have something they need to get done. And they're looking for the candidate that is the most likely to get that job done well and get it done on time. And it doesn't matter whether you're looking for a job at a fast food restaurant and you have to keep the food coming, or whether you're looking for a job in science or any other industry. The only reason employers offer people jobs is because they have something they need to get done. And the whole system breaks down if people don't get things done on time. So I can assure you that these things really do matter. And I'll add sort of one real life reality onto that is, in addition to being the person that does the hiring, that means you're also the person that has to make tough decisions when it's time to let people go. Whether you're running out of money or some other problem leads you to have to let people go. You don't get rid of your superstars. You don't get rid of the people that get things done on time and do a good job. You start at the bottom of the people that fail to come through, and they're the first to go. So practicing these things in your life as a student lead to good habits that will help you have more successful careers in the future. And I wish that for all of you. And I hope that this advice helps you a little bit and that you have a great day. Bye.
Hi, my name is TERRI KIRBY Hathaway. I've got my young girl kitty Chloe with me sitting outside my house. Sorry about that. Hope she doesn't meow too loudly. I have been in marine education for over 35 years now. And then before that, I did marine science research on fish populations in the Gulf of Mexico for 6 years. It's taken me a long time to figure out some things about working, and I wanted to share a couple of them with you. It took me a long time to figure out how to say no. When you think you've got too much on your plate already, somebody asks you to do something, even if it sounds like something really cool, you got to learn how to say no. It took me a long time to figure out how to delegate. Well, of course, that only happens if you have people that work for you, people that you can delegate to. Now I don't have a staff, but when I had a staff, it took me a little while to be willing to accept what other people would do instead of doing it myself. It's taken me a long time to figure out how to prioritize projects and how to manage my time, and that's really critical. But you just have to work at it all the time. And the one message I want to get across is never do less than your best on anything, whatever it is. You need to learn things like how to set, and you want to make sure that you maintain a good reputation. And because reputations get shared. If you have a bad reputation, that'll go further than having a good reputation. Let me tell you, it's true about a lot of things. But you really need to have a really good work ethic. You want to be known for having a good work ethic. You also want to be known for completing projects on time, not asking for extensions unless there's a major issue. And also you want to be known for doing a thorough job. Normally you're going to end up usually working for somebody. But even if you work for yourself, you're going to have to answer to others for whatever you're doing, whether you have clients, whether you're working on contracts, whatever you do, you're going to end up having people that you have to answer to. And people talk with each other about prospective clients and employees. I know that depending on what field you go into, I know that I contact people that I know in the marine education, marine science industry. If I have hiring an employee, we always compare notes, because there's nothing worse than finding out that somebody who looked good on paper, when you talk to somebody who's actually had them working on projects, you find out that they didn't do a good job, they blew things off, they were late turning in parts of projects that they were responsible for. That gets around, and you sure don't want to be known as somebody who does that kind of stuff. I just wanted to thank Cam Cannon for letting me have this opportunity, for inviting me to speak to you guys. I hope all is well, and good luck with everything you do, because I know you're going to make her proud.
Hi, I'm Noah Dinnerstein, Adjunct Assistant Professor of Music at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, City University of New York. Kids, if you're new to college, it may be a bit of a culture shock. And speaking from my experience of myself from many, many years ago, and of my son, say 20 years ago, time management is important. You may think a course is not central to your major, but if you let it go, you're going to end up in an agonizing crisis situation, and you're going to possibly crash and burn. Keep up with things. Don't leave them to the last minute. You'll be so much less stressed out by all of it. Take care.
Hi folks, I'm Mick Walsh. I am Faculty of Marine Science at the College of the Florida Keys. And I thought I'd just give you a couple of words regarding deadlines, due dates, and other types of obligations that you probably have agreed to, and sort of the importance of being on time and completing those things within those time frames. I'm sure you would expect me to talk about this from a professor's perspective, and I think that that's kind of obvious, right? Obviously, I can't grade assignments and provide feedback if I haven't received the assignments on time. But that also does affect my ability to respond, grade, and give feedback to other students as well, because waiting or providing that feedback before all the assignments are submitted will affect the integrity of the assignment for everyone overall. So that being said, I think I'll talk more about my perspective, one, as a student, because I currently am taking, I don't only teach classes at the college, but I'm currently taking an art class, but also professionally, and how that will play into your professional obligations down the road. So as a student, one of the things that I'm finding most challenging is that in this class, we're supposed to be posting our art that we're making every week, but we also have part of our assignment is to respond to the art that other students have made. And the challenge comes when there's a deadline and most of the students don't post their art pieces until probably an hour or two before that deadline. And so for me, my struggle is that part of my grade deals with responding or providing a response to another person's submission. And if they're not submitting it on time or submitting it the last minute, that sort of affects my ability to fulfill my obligation of responding to that piece of art. And so I find myself struggling because I am of the type of personality that I like to do things well when I attempt them. And I want to do really well in this class, but my time is very limited. So if the time I've budgeted for doing my own assignments and for the week has surpassed, it really is hard for me to be able to fit that in at the last minute, particularly when students are submitting their pieces of art, again, within an hour to the deadline, or often later, 24 to 48 hours after the assignment deadline. So part of this is just the empathy and putting yourself in other people's places and thinking about when you commit to something or when something is committed to, what effect is that going to have if your contribution comes in after the fact, after the considerations have already been made. There's a reason that you're part of that team is that somebody thought that it was really valuable that you were playing a role in sort of that decision or that project. Or in the case of the class, a very important part of my understanding of art is seeing the kinds of art that you create and the influences you had and really putting that into perspective. And I don't get to have that opportunity if those assignments are posted after I've already responded to discussions of other students. In the bigger context professionally, you know, a lot of being a professional in the marine sciences and research and marine biology is really getting the money to fund the project. I spent a lot of time working on grant proposals, project proposals, networking, team building with other folks. And a lot of that comes down to trying to get money to pay not only for my own research needs, but for interns, lab technicians. And it comes down to a very limited amount of money that is usually provided by nonprofits, state and local, countrywide funding agencies. And the folks that decide who gets the money for these things don't have a lot of time or patience for anything that comes in after a deadline. Something submitted late is really a burden on every person who has to review those materials, finding out whether or not your project is even feasible. And so by submitting something after a deadline, you're already indicating that you're not really taking the task very seriously. So it's a bar, a benchmark that's sort of set. The easiest benchmark for a funding agency to decide whether or not you should get that money or that award or that prize or that scholarship is, do you see that this is part of a bigger cause? Is it something bigger? And can you achieve something as simple as the deadline for when they're asking you to submit your materials? So again, it comes not just down to funding, but scholarships and things that really are going to affect you. A job employer doesn't really want to consider someone who can't work with their team and pull their own weight and do their contribution within the time frame that many projects need to be done. Particularly when we think about how natural resources are managed or how our policymakers make those policies. So a lot of these things are on very strict timelines. So I'm sure a lot of this isn't very new, but if you can take it from the perspective of it's not just an arbitrary deadline most of the time, even though on face value it might seem to be, but really it's about all the other people involved and sort of the burden that submitting something late really puts on others is often the reason why late work, and again, whether that be at school, college, or in the professional world, it isn't really tolerated, because it really shifts the burden from the person submitting the work late to the other people that work ultimately affects. So take those things seriously. If you commit to something, if you've made something your obligation, you volunteered for something, really it's up to you to pull your weight and do the things you say you're going to do in the time frame that you say you're going to do them, because folks tend to remember such things and will be hesitant to perhaps work with someone in the again if they found in the past that they're not really reaching the deadlines and providing the products that they've committed to doing. So take that as it may. This is sort of important. And you guys, you're doing some really great stuff. And I think now is really the time to take some of this stuff seriously, because you'll realize that it really is important for you to achieve your highest goals and to be that professional that everybody wants working on their team. Thanks.
Hi, this is Dr. Rick Courtright, and I'm sharing with you some information at the invitation of Dr. Kama, and I hope that what I have to say may be helpful and advantageous. I've been a career educator throughout my life. I've been a teacher, I've been an administrator, I've been a professor most recently at Duke University. And as an example regarding punctuality, we had a program, and that involved an application for students in middle and high school for what amounted to tens of thousands of dollars, and there was a deadline for application. And the bottom line was, for a student and family who submitted their application after the deadline, regardless of whether or not the student was at fault, or perhaps a teacher who was supposed to write a letter of reference was late in submitting that. If the application was not received on time, no matter how well qualified the student, if the application was late, the scholarship was not awarded. It might not have even been the student's fault, but that's an example of how some big money can be involved in meeting deadlines as a professional responsibility and a family responsibility. Second area I would like to share is, as an administrator in a program in public schools in North Carolina, we had to submit applications for grants from state and federal governments. These were grant applications that involved millions of dollars for students in programs, the funding for which was absolutely essential to the education of those children. If those grants were not submitted in a timely manner, and by that I mean for those government agencies, we're talking about a date and an hour, that if it wasn't met, there was no grant awarded, and it would put the school system and the kids at a tremendous disadvantage. I hope that you will take to heart what Dr. Cannon is trying to share with you about the importance of timeliness, punctuality, and meeting deadlines. It's a real world skill and essential to being successful in real life. I wish you the best. And Dr. Cannon, thank you for the invitation.
Good morning. My name is Amber, and I am a clinical research associate, which means that I monitor human clinical trials. I was asked to briefly discuss the importance of time management, dedication to quality, and also meeting deadlines on time. First off, I want to start that meeting deadlines on time is extremely important, but it's frequently more important to meet them early, at least in a professional setting. So, for example, per the company that I work for, I am required to respond to emails within 2 hours. But if I miss that deadline, sometimes it can have a really unexpected and negative outcome. So, say a study coordinator asks me a question about how much drug a subject should be taking. If I don't get back to them, what if that subject overdoses? That's a safety problem. and that could lead to an issue with the FDA down the road. So in this case, I would say, hey, I'm going to respond as soon as I get that email so I can give them that answer. And then that shows that I've built a good relationship with my site, or it's part of building a good relationship, and it shows that I respect their time. If I can't get back to them right away, I'll always send an email that says, hey, I know this isn't super urgent. If it's not urgent, if it is urgent, respond to them. But say, I'm going to get back to you by the end of the day. And if you don't meet that deadline, what does that say about you? It means you can't meet your deadlines or your adjusted deadlines. On a different note, I have to submit a timesheet weekly. If I don't submit my timesheet, then I don't get paid. And if I don't get paid, I can't pay my bills. So deadlines can have all kinds of negative effects if you don't meet them. But on the positive side, if you do meet your deadlines, it shows your team that you work with, or your professor, or your boss, or the people who ask you for help, that you respect their time, their efforts, and that you care about keeping that good relationship. So frequently keeping that good relationship is so important, especially in my job. I mean, say I need to talk to a principal investigator and that site just does not want to talk to me because I haven't helped them at all. But on the other hand, I have sites that I'm constantly on the phone with them anytime that they need help. And if I call them, they say, oh, Amber's on the phone. We need to talk to her. We know that she'll be in and out. It won't be too much trouble. And I know that if she's calling me, she really needs something. So deadlines are super important, and they reflect poorly or well on you professionally. Meeting deadlines is actually part of my end of year review. So if you want to think about that for a minute, the fact that I submit things on time or early being better, goes on my performance evaluation for the year, and is also part of the deciding factor of whether or not I get a raise. So your finances depend on it as well, depending on what you do. On the other side, time management. Time management is a huge part of working in any job. You need to know how and when to do the job, how long it's going to take you to do the job, and figure out what to do. So a lot of times you'll learn time management on the job, or you'll reach out to somebody within your company or a mentor that says, hey, I have a lot of experience with managing my time. Let me help. At my company, I'm one of those people. So my manager will occasionally send someone my way to talk about managing their time, because they're having trouble meeting their deadlines. And deadlines are an important metric that we base all of our work on. So if you can't meet your deadlines, you're not only letting down yourself within your career, but you're letting down your team. And I know as a student, that might not really make a lot of sense as far as, well, I need to submit this paper, but this is building a good habit that you can take into your professional life once you graduate, because school is an extremely different environment, but it trains your brain on how to set these good habits and how to meet these standards and how high a bar to set for yourself. So managing your time, having a plan, this is probably the most important part of any job you'll ever have. That's going to be at every job. You might be doing something different, but every job will require time management and meeting deadlines on time or early. Have a good day.
Hey everybody, I am Jackie Deegan. I'm an instructor at Cape Fear Community College in the Marine Tech program, and I've been here for a long time now, 15 years I guess it's been. We train people to work in industry as scientific support in various fields, whether it's fisheries or hydrographic survey, dredging companies, things like that. And I've had a lot of experience with both teaching, right, and dealing with, deadlines when it comes to students handing in things and things like that, but also in getting students jobs or helping them find jobs and to be good employees at those jobs. So I kind of can look at it from kind of both ways, as a teacher and as, someone who's, helping you get a job. So from a teacher's standpoint, in regards to being a good student, it's always nice to have students that know how to, manage their time. And it's difficult for anybody to manage their time and, organize their schoolwork around their personal lives and, family and work and things like that. But that's a big, important part of being a student, is being able to manage all those things and getting things done when you're supposed to. And, in my classes, it's college, and I have, penalties for being late, and in many of my classes I don't accept late work, because you just don't, because there are many instances where when you hand something in late, you miss that deadline, and that means you don't get those points. That means, if I did accept that late stuff, that means you had more time to work on that material, when those students who rush to get it done on the deadline, they handed in an inferior product on time, but they got it done on time, right? And that's not fair to them who rushed it, to get it done. And where if I accept something late from you, then I'm like, how's that even fair? That's not fair. So so I don't accept late work, especially my oceanography class. It's just not accepted. But there's a lot of other instances when it comes to being late that it's just not possible to be late in our program. There have been many times, for instance, when I have a field trip on some of our boats, like on our 56-foot catamaran, and I'm call and roll, and class is starting, and there are students slowly walking down the dock to get on the boat. I'm not going to wait for you, and you should be running. And really, if you're on time, you're late. You should be early, because the boat, you're literally going to miss the boat because you're late or on time, and that's not good. You're going to miss the entire class. You're going to miss your lab grade, and that's not good. Now, that's from kind of a teacher standpoint, but from an employer standpoint, right? Time management is an important soft skill to have as an employee. And we just had a resume workshop today where we were talking about these types of things with our student body, and how important it is to be good at managing your time. And that's what you're learning in these high school classes and these college classes, is how to manage your time, because that's what employers are looking for, someone that they can trust to know that they're going to get the job done when it's supposed to be done. And, we have students who use us as references for jobs, and so I get calls from employers, and they're not calling to ask me, does this student know how to use this piece of equipment? They're calling to ask me, did this student come to school when they were supposed to? Did this student hand in their work when they were supposed to? Did they work well with others? Did they communicate in a clear, sufficient way? Did they handle a difficult situation in a responsible, safe way, right? It's those soft skills that are important, and time management is a big one. So you may feel that deadlines, that's okay. She's a nice teacher. She'll take it. Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way in the real world, especially when you start looking for jobs and trying to build up that trust with that employer, or trust with your instructors, right? Deadlines matter. So think about that the next time when you are like, it's due in an hour. I'll just hand it in tomorrow. It'll be okay. No, stay up and work hard for that hour. And even if you hand in an inferior product, that's okay. You hand it in on time. And I'll tell you why that's important. You're probably like, but I want to get an A. There are many times and many students that I've had that, two students in my head right now. I have one of them, straight A student. Got excellent grades on everything. Showed up to class late most of the time. That's just the way it is. Not really dependable. Didn't really work well with others. They're kind of like, off on their own, doing their own thing. Didn't really like working in groups and all that kind of stuff. Another student, she was a C student. She worked hard, for that C, but she was dependable. She was there when she needed to be there. She was early, she was helpful, she would step up and do the work. So if I had an employer that was calling and getting a reference for these two students for the same job, which one do you think I would recommend?
Greetings from North Carolina to Dr. Cannon's students. My name is Dr. Diana Betts, and I'm currently an assistant professor of literacy and reading at a university in North Carolina. Dr. Cannon and I were both recent graduates of UNCW's doctoral program, and we've worked together in the past in the same county in North Carolina. And we had hoped to be able to see each other again soon for our graduation, but that has not happened just yet. She asked me to make you guys a quick video and give you some perspective. I will tell you my background is in education. I've been a teacher for about 13, 14 years now. I've mainly been a public school teacher. I've taught in the classroom. I've been a media coordinator. I've been a gifted coordinator. And like I said, I'm currently in higher education. Now, today's world is obviously a little different. We're battling a lot right now, especially with COVID. The one thing, however, that my school, the school that I teach in, has made it very clear is that we still have to maintain high academic standards. Our school in particular is very proud of our success rate with regards to testing and performance of our students. And that is something that we do not want to lose. People are attracted to our university because of our performance. We have high standards. We expect a lot of our students. So as faculty members, we still are expected to maintain deadlines, maintain high academic rigor. We don't give a lot of pass-fail grades. It's high academic expectations. And the one thing I can say about deadlines, I've always been a teacher who, when I set a deadline, I need to follow through with that deadline. And I do expect my students to meet those deadlines. With that being said, the one thing I ask of my students, because I do tend to say that I'm a flexible professor, is if you communicate with me ahead of time, if you let me know what's going on in your world, in your realm, and what you may be dealing with or battling, I can make exceptions and I can be flexible and I will work with you. But that is something I'm finding. I'm actually teaching undergraduates right now, mainly sophomore, juniors. Actually, next semester I will be teaching a graduate class and supervising student teachers. But right now I'm teaching primarily undergraduate students. And I can say that I've told them this many, many times. Communicate with me ahead of time and I can work with you. It's interesting, I do teach several different sections of classes. So I have one section that meets face-to-face in person twice a week, and I teach that same class online one time per week. My students online are teacher assistants, and they work full-time. They are in a school Monday through Friday assisting a full-time teacher, and they're working a full-time job. And then on top of that, they have 4 to 5 classes. They're taking a full-time course load on top of working full-time. That's my online students who meet once a week. My day students are traditional undergraduate students. They live on campus, they live in a dorm, and they come to class twice per week. And they're taking about 4 classes. Surprisingly, I have not had any issues with my full-time teacher assistants submitting work to me on time. They communicate with me regularly if there is an issue. They are always on time with their assignments, and if anything any issue arises, they communicate with me. They send me a quick email and say, "Hey, Dr. Betts, this is a really rough week for me." Whatever the case may be, whatever they're battling this week, they let me know. I'm having an issue though with some of my face-to-face students. They struggle with that, and I know right now it may seem intimidating to you to actually have to email, but I can assure you that's going to be part of your job moving into the real world. Communication. whether it's picking up a phone and calling somebody, which I know in our today's society, we've kind of gotten away from picking up a phone and making a call. We now rely heavily on text messages and email communication. But formulating a professional email will take you very far, believe it or not. When you want to get a job, most employers are going to want to see an email submitted resume. They're going to want to see how you communicate and how you handle yourself. So, I know times are tough right now. But I know Dr. Cannon, and I can say her and I probably have a close philosophy on this, that if you are in communication, we definitely work with you. We are teachers, and teachers by nature have that innate ability to understand what people go through. That doesn't mean we're not going to hold you to the same high academic standards, because we want what's best for you. We want to prepare you for a future where you are successful. And the only way we can do that is to maintain our high academic standards, our integrity, and keep pushing forward despite what may be going on. If it's not COVID this year, it could be something else next year. And if we keep making those excuses, then we're not doing you guys the service that we know we should be providing you. So I hope that helps bring some clarity to the situation you may be going through right now. Stay headstrong. This too shall pass. So I wish you the best of luck. And if I can ever be of service again, please let me know. Take care.